Okay, so I'm going to talk about a movie that's called Interstellar. Interstellar is a movie that was released on 2014. It's under the category of science fiction, space travel kind of movie. Um, while I was watching this movie, I watched it like a really long time ago, so I had to watch it to remember many things about the movie that I didn't remember. um, those things were actually crucial to understanding the movie, and which now after watching some reviews, after watching some channels on YouTube talking about the movie, talking about how the directors and all the music producers, the scenography, the special effects department, all the budget that came into this movie, which came out to be a really great movie, which was has won many prizes and also has been like this. I think you can call it like a base for some scientific research. For example, the recent photography of like the black hole, you know, the black hole that is actually real, that was screenshotted by the NASA. It was something. It looked familiar to the black hole that appeared in Interstellar. So to begin with, like the whole movie. Um, well, to start off, in the beginning of the movie, there are three characters. Well, four characters. The father, that is Cooper, which is like the main character, the protagonist, if you may say. His daughter and his son Tom. So they live a happy life, except for the fact that the whole planet is dying and the resources had run out, and all um, the crops and all the corn that they used to farm was running out, and the whole like plantations of crops and corn, they were just running out and completely burned out by the extreme heat that was caused in the atmosphere. So by this by this time, the earth was dying. There were these dust storms or dirt storms which strike with force under the whole like small country, because it wasn't even a town, like it wasn't a city, which had like advanced um, like big cities, many cars. It didn't have anything like that. At the highest top of technology regular people had was just trucks. That was like the top of technology. They didn't. Most people didn't even have computers. So there's this family. They live happily, and we find out that this Cooper actually has a like um, this like personal afition to space, because he's an engineer, but he's also a farmer, because they don't need engineers anymore. They just need more farmers. They just need to keep producing food because they don't have food anymore. So his job is really important for the human race. Um, and yeah, so at the beginning of the movie, they go on like this trip or something like that. Well, you could call it many ways, but they go on this trip where they find like a drone that was sent by the government, which it was really weird, because the government was only mentioned in one time, like that one time in the movie, but we don't actually get to see it. So they find this drone, and Cooper goes crazy about it because he wants to investigate it. So he goes to like he lets his son drive, because he has this computer that it wasn't actually like a computer; it was more like a briefcase. But they had this briefcase computer which they used to control the drone that was controlled by the government. So they use this briefcase and they start driving at really high speed, and they catch to it, so they start controlling it, and they like check it if it has some any valuable things or whatever, but it doesn't have anything. So yeah, that will be the presentation of the movie. There's not much to review in that. Just you can see that the family is really bonded together. They're really close to each other. They love and care for each other. Yeah. So, um, the daughter of Cooper has this like ghost in her room, which she isn't scared about, but is more like concerned about it because when she goes to her room, he finds like these drum books. He has this kind of, I don't know how to call it, but he just has all his room make a mess every time she comes in. So when she comes in and she sees all of this, she gets a little bit freaked out, but more than freaked out, she's just interested about what's going on. I mean, she's a girl of science. She doesn't believe in supernatural things. She's like her father. Her father is like a scientist. So she tells her father, that she has this ghost, quote unquote, but it's actually a ghost, as I said. But we'll be like looking on that up forward. So yeah, he has this ghost, and her father tells her that ghosts don't exist. There are not such things as ghosts. So, but it actually like a couple of scenes after this, there's a dirt storm. I don't know how to call it, but there's this storm, and it strikes them, and they run to home, obviously. So they lock themselves inside, and the the window on the girl's room was open, and but she was really freaked out because she didn't have left it open when they left. So it was really weird that the window was actually open, right? So they get into the house, and the girl was really scared because the window suddenly opened, and all the dust from outside started coming in. So the father came in, and he closed the door. When he closed the door, there was something weird because on the floor there was this, I think it was like 6 lines or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but there were these straight lines aligned to each other, and there were thin lines and thick lines. So at first the girl said that it might be Morse code, but it wasn't actually. It was actually a binary, which is 0 1 0 1 0 1. So the thin lines were zero, and the thick lines were ones. So the father started noting these lines, and he found out that those lines were actually, um, sorry, these lines were actually coordinates for whatever place. I mean, yeah, whatever place. So he noted these coordinates, and she was really, and they were really freaked out because they didn't know what to do. But he was really interested and curious about what those coordinates and why there were those coordinates there, and who put the coordinates there. So he gets on his truck and drives off to the coordinates. Her daughter obviously sneaks in his car. He didn't want her to come, but she came anyway. So yeah. So they get to this place that was surrounded by a fence, an electric fence, and when they actually tried to cut it down, a really bright light was like um, put on them, and they like the daughter was in the car and the father was outside, and he was just really freaked out because he didn't know what it was, and like this spectator, the viewer, also didn't know what it was because you only could see like the whole light and there was nothing else. So he Cooper gets tased, and there's these boys, these robotic boys, which calls for the daughter, and the daughter yells, and obviously because they were scared. So yeah, after that, they move on to a facility. This facility was actually NASA's facility, and after some discussion and all of that, oh yeah, Cooper finds his old teacher on this facility. He was researching for other planets for the humans to live in. So yeah, um, they wanted Cooper, or they had Cooper. They didn't count on Cooper to pilot like the ship, the rocket. They didn't count on him because they didn't even remember him. But for some reason, and they said that's like destiny, that he actually went to the facility so they could have him to, you know, drive the ship. So by this time, uh, he wasn't so sure because he didn't want to leave his family behind. Like he had to leave his daughter, his son, and his father on Earth, and he obviously didn't want them to die. So at first he said no, but then the professor that was like the leader of this whole operation told him that this was the only chance that he will get to save his family. So at the end of it, he finally accepts to fly the ship. The day of that they were going to launch the ship, he went with his daughter and he told her goodbye. Obviously, she wasn't too excited about it because, well, I will explain this later because this thing is really interesting. But yeah, so she says goodbye to her daughter, and there's this weird scene where when he actually leaves, her daughter busts out of the door, running like crazy, telling him that he should stay, because there were all these signals that were telling him to stay, and she said that it was her ghost. So it didn't make any sense that it would be a ghost. So no one will believe her. So yeah. So finally, Cooper leaves with his tripulation. There were three persons with him. There was a girl, and there were two men. The girl was called Brand. The other two guys were called Getty and Romilly. So the whole tripulation was Dr. Cooper, well, the engineer Cooper, was the pilot, and also you have Brand, she is the daughter of the professor. They had Getty and they had Romilly. So they had these four people that will supposedly going to save the whole humanity. They will go on another planet, and they will find a planet that we could live in. So afterwards, everyone will get on the ship, and we will all travel to another planet. Sounds too like not true. I mean, I didn't believe it at first, but I just played on with it because I mean I didn't have any other options. The first time I saw it, obviously. So then you will ask yourself, but why did they have to take this risk? Couldn't they just take everyone on Earth and they would just all travel together to another planet? The problem is gravity. Gravity didn't even let them cross like space because when they would need too much strength to actually get out of Earth. So since they didn't have this strength, they couldn't get out of Earth, and they also didn't have enough strength to get out of Earth with so many people. So they couldn't do this. There were two core plans for this operation. Plan A was that the tripulation will go to three planets where were the candidates for the new Earth. Let's call it like that, the new Earth. and they will go. They will like scan if the places or they if it has organics, if they could live in there or whatever, and afterwards, and they will come back to Earth. They will tell like the scientists that they will come back and they will say that yeah, this planet we can live in this planet. We can everyone can go in this planet. It's like Earth too. I mean, yeah, whatever. But the problem is that how can we solve gravity? And that's what Cooper thought at first. I mean, yeah, I could do that. I can go to another planet. I could waste my whole life with my daughter, without my daughter, but I can save her and save the whole human race. But how can you solve gravity? So that's what he asked to the professor. So the professor promised him that when he came back to Earth, he will have solved the gravity problem. And so yeah, that was the promise of the professors. And the other plan B, was to have this colony where they will have these unnatural humans which were incubated by artificial germination type of thing. The problem with this, or the problem with this, was there won't be any variation or like yeah, gene variation, ADN variation, because I mean everyone will be almost the same. So yeah, it wasn't really a good option, but it was all they had. I mean the planet was dying. So yeah, they take off and they have this poem that's repeated in the whole movie, which is called "Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night." I'm going to play a clip, which was this clip is was taken off, well, like captured right when they took off Earth. So I'm gonna play it right now for you to actually see or well, hear and see like the tense of the moment.
Amelia, be safe. Give my regards to Dr. Mann.
I will, Dad.
It looks good for your trajectory. We've calculated 2 years to Saturn.
It's a lot of Dramamine.
Look after my family, will you please, sir?
We'll be waiting for you when you get back. Little older, a little wiser, but happy to see you. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Though wise men at their end, no dark is right, because their words had forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light.
After this clip, they are heading to another planet, and they're heading to this singularity, which is located, well, like it says in the clip, from the Earth 2 years to Saturn or near Saturn. So yeah. When they take off, you will think or you will say, well, are they going to wait like this whole 2 years just sitting with each other on a ship? Well, actually, no. They had like I think you might call it like this four things that will well three things that were the well four things yeah four things that were like really technologically type of advanced. They had two robots, Case and Tars. Case was more of like a static robot. He was controlling the ship. He was making that everything was going right. Taurus was more of the type he was like a companion robot, but he had artificial intelligence, so he will actually think by himself, not by any other programs or computer or anything like that. He thought for himself. He was like other human being, but he was actually a robot. He was obviously smarter and he was also really bad with the with the other tripulants of the ship. So yeah, and the last invention that was like, wow, was the hypersleep chamber. Yeah, the hypersleep chamber. They had four of these. Yeah, well, one for each one. They had one for Romilly. They had one. They had one for Getty. They had one for the girl, and they had one for Cooper. So yeah, four. So these like chambers were actually pots that were filled up with water, and they will get in, like if they were, like if you have a ziploc, like the ones you put sandwiches, like if you were like a sandwich in a ziploc, and you fit in there and you get underwater and you sleep, like there's this time of awakening where they will just program it, like when they want to get when they want to get up. But imagine if you will just stay there and never get up again. It will be like dying. I mean, you just get in there, you will get, obviously get um like uh you won't need any like sunlight, you won't need food, you will need water, you will just go to complete sleep mode, like you don't consume energy, you don't consume food anymore, you don't consume anything, you just are in a state that's almost like being dead. So yeah, they everyone obviously puts on his awakening date, obviously 2 years. Yeah, so everyone goes to sleep, and after that, well, in the clip you can also see that they had like this screen where the professor was talking to them, and this screen is really important for a clip because they can only know what is happening on Earth by this small screen if they send messages to them. So yeah, um, after they all go to sleep, they wake up 2 years later and they're really near on the singularity. The singularity was, I mean, it was like a wormhole, but they call it two ways. They call it a singularity or a wormhole. A singularity is something that happens like one in a million times, so it's really rare to see it. And wormhole is just like they have this analogy where they will, let's say for example, I have this page, right? So a singularity is, well, a wormhole is basically if I'm on point A right here, and there's point B and I'm here. So let's say for example that if I want to travel from here to here, it will take 100 years. Yeah. But what this the wormhole does is that it bends space and time and does it like this. So here's point A, and here behind it's point B. So what you will actually do is, instead of going this way, like this, you will actually go straight to the other side, like that. So by traveling normally, you will get to the point B for what, 100 years. But on the wormhole, you will get by only just 10 minutes. Well, 10 minutes for you. I will get to that later. So yeah, they got into a wormhole. There's this whole tense sequence when time and space just bends and it goes completely nuts. I mean, it's really weird, but yeah. So they get through it, and they had these three planets. They had Edmund's planet, Man's planet, and Miller's planet. Um, so by this time, there's this new concept that you have to really get used to, which is time relativity. Time, rel- time relativity basically says that time doesn't go the same at everyone. Time is relative. We have like same time in Earth, like the time passes the same because we are on the same planet, but sometimes we can say that some days are longer or other nights are longer or mornings last longer than afternoons or things like that. But this thing takes it to a whole new level. Uh, the fact that you age slower in space is true, but the astronauts that go only on satellites that are orbiting around Earth only last like zero point 0.6 years longer. Like the time goes a little bit slower for them. But for them, a minute that they pass on any planet that they are going to travel to, it's like 7 years on Earth. An hour is 7 years on Earth. So imagine that. He had so much to lose. He had so much to lose. He was going to completely lose all the years that he could have had with her daughter, with his son. So Cooper had, yeah, as we know, he had more things to care about. So yeah, they arrive onto this whole new part of the universe, and they find these three planets. They first decide, well, they have enough fuel to travel to the three planets, and they decide to travel first to Miller. I have a clip that shows how the Miller planet visit goes on, and you will find out that Miller was actually the name of another astronaut that had already traveled to this place, and he sent a message that was supposed to be like they that message was supposed to be like, like he just sent that message saying that the planet was habitable, that they could live there. Yeah. So they go onto the planet, and they had like this small ship, and the thing is, like I said, 1 hour there is like 7 years on Earth or more. I think it was even more, but yeah. So they got to Miller's planet, and they arrive. So I'm going to show right now the clip of how tense, because I really can't describe it or how tense it was. It's better if you can watch it how it was. So yeah, I'm gonna play it right now.
Very graceful.
No, but very efficient. What are you waiting for? Let's go. Go, 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 go. 7 years per hour here. Let's make it count.
This way. About 200 meters.
Gravity's punishing.
Been floating through space too long?
130% Earth gravity.
There's nothing here.
Should be right here.
If there's signals coming from here. For beacon.
Wreckage. Where's the rest?
Towards the mountains!
Those aren't mountains. They're waves.
Oh shit. Oh shit.
That one's moving away from us.
the recorder.
Brand Doyle, back to the Ranger now.
We're not leaving without her data.
Get back here now. No, we do not have time. The second wave is coming. We're in the middle of the swell.
I got it.
Get your ass back to the Ranger now. Brand, get back here now.
Go. I can't make it. Go!
Pace, go get her.
Go!
Get up, Brand. Go.
I'm not gonna make it.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Come on, Pace has it. Get back here, Doyle. Come on. Get to the hatch. Go. Manually overriding inside hatch.
Okay, so right here we have three core characters of the movie. We have Bran, which is the girl. We have Cooper, which is the astronaut that stays in the ship, and we have Getty, which is the one that gets completely killed at the end. So yeah. After that, they have this, like, they obviously return to the ship, and they actually found out that they have lost 50 years on the Earth, or no, I think it was less, like 27 years or something like that. But yeah, they lost a lot of time. So yeah, 27 years, and when they come back, the other tripulant of the movie that was of the ship that was called Romilly, he had aged all the time that they were out. He had aged and waited 27 years for them to come back. Imagine, he didn't even know if he would come back. It would be really terrifying to just be hopeless in the middle of nowhere. He didn't even have food. Like he only had food for a couple years. I mean, not 27 years. He couldn't supply himself for 27 years. So yeah, after this, when they actually come back, they obviously come back with bad news because that planet was obviously not habitable. So yeah. So the next part, it's also very crucial because they need to decide which will be the next planet. They have two options. They have Edmund's planet and Man's planet. So supposedly Man's planet is the right choice because that data was like, the data that they sent to them was fiable. It was really good. They had to go there. Like man was saying to go there. They had to go there. But the problem is that Brand didn't actually believe that. He had this feeling to herself that wasn't the right choice. The right choice was Edmund's planet. But obviously Cooper didn't accept that because Edmund was actually, well, she had a crush on Edmund, so that would be like an interference on the movie, and like they will not follow just by some feelings that she had for him. So yeah, they go to Man's planet, and this planet was I don't know if you have seen Star Wars, but it was like Hoth. It was completely frozen, a frozen planet. It didn't have life. It didn't have anything. It was a cold water. It was completely uninhabited by any kind of life or organic life form. So they arrive here, and they are at the Man's, like obviously the astronaut that was called Man. So they're at Man's planet. So they arrive at his camping site, and he was on hypersleep. And this is where I said that he didn't even put a waking up time. he will just sleep forever and no one will notice. So yeah. And after that, um like they find man, they wake him up, and he completely burst out in crying because he haven't seen any other human being in so much time. And after that, um they go out, and they ask man if they had enough resources for like the earth was habitable, if it has organic life. And he said that there was organic life, that there was possible to colonize there, because under the cold surface there was actually some place that we could live in. So I mean, mission accomplished, right? And here comes the big twist. It was all a lie. Plan A was all a lie. Everything that Cooper believed in was all a lie. Remember the equation that I said in the first, that was going to solve like this gravity thing, that that the humans couldn't go everyone together because of gravity? The professor actually solved the problem of gravity in the first couple months. And by this time, I actually forgot to mention, I'm sorry, but by this time, by the time Cooper got back to Miller's planet, there's this really heartwarming or heart touching moment when he is talking with his grown up daughter, Murph. So they talk, and I mean, you just have to see it by yourself because it's really heartbreaking, heart touching. So yeah.
Hey, Dad. You son of a bitch. I never made one of these when you were still responding because I was so mad at you for leaving. And then when you went quiet, it seemed like I should live with that decision, and I have. But today's my birthday. And it's a special one because you told me you once told me that when you came back we might be the same age. And today I'm the age you were when you left. So it might be a real good time for you to come back.
After those scenes, I'm gonna go a little bit quickly because this was like a really extensive part of the movie. So we left out with man, right? They arrive at man's planet, they wake up man, and everything is fine. All's good, we can live there, we can come back to Earth. Yeah, there's one problem. In the last clip that I played, there's Marv, right there. The daughter, she's already grown up. So after that clip, she actually goes to work with the professor. So the professor shows a little bit of no interest in keeping up with the investigation. He doesn't want to keep on going with the investigation because he had already solved the gravity problem, but she doesn't even know yet. So a little bit advances on the movie. Cooper and his other friends, well, yeah, friends you might, or yeah, friends, start like setting up a colony on the planet. So they have that. But then, um, the professor dies. Well, yeah, dies, but before he died, he told the truth to Morph. He told her that it was all a lie, that Plane A was a lie, that her father wouldn't come back anytime. So yeah. After she hears all of this, she decides to give a message to his dad and his tripulation. Um, she starts off by saying that her condolences come to Brand, which is the daughter of the professor, and then she confronts the tripulation by telling them the truth that if they knew that he wouldn't come back, but she was really mad at her father because by this time she thought that her father knew. So she gets really mad, and then Cooper freaks out because he didn't know that he wouldn't come back, and so she gets really mad, and he decides to leave as quickly as possible there. But before that, they need to explore the planet. So they go Cooper with Dr. Mann. They go on the planet and they start walking. So when they start walking, Man starts this weird dialogue, which like gives you a hint that when you hear the dialogue, you tell to yourself, this man is gonna betray us. So yeah, he obviously betrays the whole tripulation because he didn't want to live anymore in the planet because the planet didn't have any life in it, and it was all a lie, another lie, double lie. So he confronts Cooper. He breaks his helmet. His because it's like this part, the front part, it's glass. So he breaks it with a head bump. He breaks it, and he starts losing air. So there's this very tense moment, and then Man comes back to his landing site. He steals the ship from the tripulation, and he takes off to like the main space station. So obviously Cooper wasn't going to die there. He is saved by Brand. He goes at top speed, like, as fast as she can to save him, and she goes all the way. He rescues him, and he tells her that man is a liar. Um, so they start to pursue him. They start to try to communicate with him to stop him, but they couldn't do it. And what's going on with Romilly? I mean, Romilly was like researching some things on the ship, and he was checking on the data, and he found out that the data didn't make any sense. Like the real notes that the man had put on like a kind of diary, electric diary or something like that. It didn't make sense with things that they were seeing on a planet. So it was a trap. It was actually a bomb. So Romilly dies. Tars, which was the robot, runs out of the camping site to go on the ship with Cooper and Brand. So yeah, everyone takes up the planet and they start to try to follow Professor Mann. So Man is trying to get into the ship into the main station, and he doesn't make it. He tries to connect with the main ship, but he fails. The whole ship explodes. Well, not the whole ship, but a part of the ship completely explodes, and everyone is completely shocked. And they obviously man died, and they had to recover the ship because if they didn't recover the ship, there would not be any way to come back. So yeah, they go. They try. They have this really tense sequence where they like the ship is like this big spiral, as you saw in one clip. It's this big spiral that and starts spinning because there's no gravity in space, so it just keeps on constant rotations per minute. And Man tells the Case, which is the robot that's controlling the speed of the ship, to start rotating at the same speed of the ship. So they start doing it, and they try to connect with the ship, and they do connect, and they make it, and everything is good. So now the only problem is they can't come back anymore. They don't have enough fuel to come back to Earth. So they have to go to Edmund's planet, but the thing is that they can't also go to Edmund's planet. They don't have enough fuel because one of the because I mean the ship was almost destroyed, so they didn't have fuel. So they had this really intense sequence, but where they start like deploying capsules, because there was this black hole, and the black hole was this the big singularity of the movie. It was, I mean, it was completely astonished as it was completely astonishing to see this whole group of mass only black, and it was nothing. Literally was a way to nothing. So yeah, they used the black hole to get out of the system and go to Edmund's planet. And this is the end of Cooper, because he sacrifices himself for the very good, and he goes into the black hole. So he goes into the black hole. I'm gonna play the whole sequence, but after he goes to the black hole and you see the whole sequence, he bends time itself to tell her daughter that to stay, for his father to stay, and he tells her how they can survive, and this is how the movie ends. Cooper bends time by itself in order to give his actual daughter, like the older daughter, instructions for her to make a new colony. So years passes, and you will think, well, is Cooper dead? No, he didn't die. He didn't die. He didn't even age. His daughter, when he was in this part, right? It was like this really weird place where he bent time. So he gave the instructions to her daughter, and he was thrown into nothing, literally nothing. He was just floating in space, waiting for someone to get him. So a group of people get him, they get to him, and when they get to him, they take him back to Earth. Earth 2? I mean, you could say it's like a space station. It's not really a planet, but it's really weird because it's like a cylinders kind of thing, which they live in. They have crops, they have everything, and the planet, it's safe. Everyone's happy now. So yeah, they have that, and he goes to see her daughter, and he says his final goodbye to her daughter. So this is how the movie ends. And oh yeah, they also, after that, after the daughter dies, before the daughter dies, she tells him to go to search to Brand, because Brand is also still alive. So she tells him to go search her, to go save her, to tell her that they have succeeded. And yeah, that's how the movie ends. Thank you for listening and paying attention.
Murph! 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 No, 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 no! Murph! Murph! No, no! Ah!